Okay. This class will be discussing about DNA ligases, the another tool required for the production of recombinant DNA molecules. As we discussed earlier, cutting the DNA molecules and joining the DNA molecules are the two important steps involved in the production of recombinant DNA molecules. Of course, for cutting the DNA molecules, we use restriction endonucleases, which will cut the DNA at specific sites, because of which there will be the production of defined length of DNA fragments, by which we will be able to carry out DNA cloning process. The second class of enzymes, as you all know, there is joining process involved. The joining, covalent joining of DNA molecules can be carried out by another class of enzymes called DNA ligases. So in this class, we'll discuss about what is the mechanism of these DNA ligases, how these are used in producing recombinant DNA molecules, what are the side reactions, to overcome those side reactions, what are the different solutions or the strategies we would apply to produce our product of interest. Okay, as I mentioned, to incorporate a target DNA fragment into the vector, we need a method for the covalent joining of DNA molecule. DNA ligase enzymes are the ones that perform this covalent joining of the DNA molecules. What they do is they repair a break in one strand of the double-stranded DNA molecule, provided there is 5' end has a phosphate group attached. The presence of phosphate group at the 5' end is important for the action of these ligases. In addition, for their activity, they also require an adenylating agent to activate the phosphate group which is present at the 5' end, and to make it ready for the attack by the 3' hydroxyl group. I hope you are able to follow what I meant. Here the ligation, in the sense, while joining the DNA molecules, the nicks are joined by the formation of phosphodiester bond. That is the activity of DNA ligase. But it requires the phosphate group attached at the 5' end, and of course free hydroxyl group at the 3' end. In addition, the activity of the DNA ligase also requires the adenylating agent. What this adenylating agent does is that it activates the phosphate group present at the 5' end, and it makes it ready for attack by the 3' hydroxyl group. There are two different DNA ligases we use for ligation in recombinant DNA technology. One ligase is the one derived from E. coli, and the T4 DNA ligase derived from E. coli that uses NAD plus as cofactor for its activity. That means it uses NAD plus as adenylating agent. And we also have one more enzyme which is most commonly used, that is again DNA ligase derived from bacteriophage T4. That's why it is called T4 DNA ligase. The difference between this E. coli DNA ligase and T4 DNA ligase is that this T4 DNA ligase uses ATP as an adenylating agent, which is required for the activity of this DNA ligase. And in general, these ligases are very efficient at sealing the broken phosphodiester bonds in case of the annealed pair of cohesive ends. Yesterday we discussed what are the different types of restriction fragments produced by these restriction enzymes. It can be the single stranded overhangs. It could be 5' overhang or 3' overhang, or sometimes it can be blunt ended fragments. These 5' or 3' overhang ends are also called cohesive ends. So here the point what we are discussing is that these ligases are efficient in sealing the breaks of the cohesive ends. What do I mean by sealing the breaks of cohesive ends? We all understood in yesterday's class that these cohesive ends, if they are compatible, they can be annealed by the formation of hydrogen bonding. But when they are annealed by the formation of hydrogen bonding also, there will be nicks. Those are left out. These nicks are the ones that need to be repaired by the action of DNA ligase. So here the point what I am discussing is, these ligases are very efficient in sealing the breaks that are present in the annealed pair of cohesive ends. here when they join the annealed pair of cohesive ends, what happens is the event whatever happens there is just the reverse of a restriction enzyme reaction. In the restriction enzyme reaction, what is happening? There is breakage, right? Here in the action of DNA ligase, while joining these two fragments, both the ends are annealed by the, because of complementarity between these two strands, they are annealed together by hydrogen bonding, and the nick is joined by the formation of phosphodiester bond, which is considered to be just the reverse of the activity of restriction endonuclease. And this T4 DNA ligase can even ligate the blunt-ended fragments. So in the previous point, in this point, what we tried to explain is that in general, the ligases are efficient in joining the cohesive ends, but T4 ligase can also ligate the blunt-ended fragments, but obviously with low efficiency. Whereas the DNA ligase from E. coli cannot even join the blunt-ended fragments. It's only T4 DNA ligase that can join even the blunt-ended fragments, but of course with low efficiency. The efficiency of the ligase is very, very high when it comes to the joining of the cohesive ends. I hope you are able to follow. Yes. Moving on further, mechanism of DNA ligase. So in this diagram, it is shown two different ligases, what I was mentioning. One is E. coli DNA ligase, the other one is T4 DNA ligase. E. coli DNA ligase, it requires NAD plus as an adenylating agent, and T4 DNA ligase, it requires ATP and adenylating agent. In both the cases, whether it is T4 DNA ligase or E. coli DNA ligase, both form enzyme AMP complex. They form as enzyme AMP complex, then that binds to the nick. This enzyme AMP complex binds to the nick, where the 5' end is bearing a phosphate group and the 3' end has free hydroxyl group. When it binds to the nick as an adenylating agent, it activates the phosphate group. It activates the phosphate group and then it forms the phosphodiester bond between these two, the phosphate and the hydroxyl group. So the phosphodiester bond is formed and your enzyme will be released, AMP will be released out. Just to repeat quickly once again, two different enzymes we are using. Two different enzymes are available for ligation, T4 DNA ligase and E. coli DNA ligase. The difference between these two is ATP is the adenylating agent for T4 DNA ligase, whereas NAD is adenylating agent for E. coli DNA ligase. And another difference, as I mentioned in the previous slide, T4 DNA ligase is the one would be able to join the blunt-ended fragments, although it is with low efficiency, whereas E. coli DNA ligase cannot join the blunt-ended fragments. When it comes to the mechanism of action, it forms the complex with the enzyme and it goes and binds to the nick where there is a phosphate group attached at the 5' end, and this is activated by the AMP so that it becomes ready for the attack by the 3' hydroxyl group by which there is formation of phosphodiester bond and the AMP will be released. The same information here explaining the action of DNA ligase. An enzyme, as I told you in the previous slide, an enzyme, AMP complex that binds to the nick bearing 3' hydroxyl group and the 5' phosphate group. Then the AMP, it reacts with the phosphate group. Then it becomes ready for the attack by the 3' hydroxyl group on the moiety, by which there is generation of new phosphodiester bond. Then thereby the nick will be sealed. Now let's see how these DNA ligases are used for creating recombinant DNA molecules. The target DNA, whatever we are using for ligation, that may be a single fragment that has been isolated from agarose gel, or it could be a mixture of many fragments from, for example, genomic DNA. You just take genomic DNA and treat it with restriction digestion and you will have the several fragments formed because of the cleavage. As it is, that can be used. Or if you want it in purified form, you can run it on agarose gel and pick up the target of interest, purify it and use only the target DNA for the ligation reaction. If the target, if it is prepared by digestion with the eco-R1 restriction enzyme, obviously the target needs to be prepared properly before you go for the ligation. Say for example, if you are using plasmid as a vector, we all know plasmid is a circular DNA molecule. You cannot incorporate your fragment of interest into a circular molecule, right? So before you go for incorporation, what you need to do is you need to linearize it, and you have to produce the compatible ends to the vector molecule in order to insert your fragment of interest. So the target should have been prepared by digestion with eco-R1, and then the fragment can be ligated with the vector DNA that is cut with the same enzyme. In the previous class, we discussed in detail. For this ligation to take place, the ends that need to be joined should have been compatible with each other. When they are compatible with each other, they would be able to base pair because of the complementarity, thereby forming the hydrogen bonding. The ligase does only the sealing of the neck, isn't it? So here the point I am trying to explain is, if the target is prepared by digestion with eco-R1, then the same enzyme would have been used for preparing the vector also. Then only you will have the compatible ends to go for the ligation of these two molecules. In practice, the vector should have only one site for cleavage with the relevant enzyme. What will happen if there is more than one site that will be cleaved into 2-3 fragments? Then in that case, you will be able to produce the intact recombinant DNA molecule by 2-3 ligation reactions. That becomes very, very difficult practically, because as we discussed, just joining the DNA molecules by adding the DNA ligase, it sounds very simple, but in reality, this is very, very inefficient reaction. The ligation is very, very inefficient reaction. So when you choose the vector for producing this recombinant DNA molecule, you have to make sure and you have to select the vector in such a way that it should have only one site for cleavage with the relevant enzyme, whichever you choose. Otherwise, the correct product will be formed only by the ligation of 3 or more fragments, which would be very inefficient. That's what I mentioned earlier. So there are many possible products from this ligation reaction. When you allow your vector and the target DNA to be ligated in the presence of DNA ligase, it's not that just the desired product. What is your desired product? If you are using plasmid as your vector, your desired product will be the circular molecule in which your target of interest is incorporated, isn't it? But in reality, that's not just the one product will be formed during the ligation. See, the linearized vector can recircularized without the incorporation of the target DNA. That means again the religation of the original plasmid will be formed without the incorporation of the target DNA. That could be one product, and two target fragments can be ligated with each other, which will be of no use, right? So these are all the side products or the side reactions that can take place during the ligation reaction. So that's what I meant here. There are many possible products from this ligation reaction, and the outcome will depend on the relative concentrations. We need to control the reaction in such a way that our product of interest will be formed as a major product. So the outcome will depend on the relative concentrations of the fragments as well as the conditions. We also need to control the reaction conditions in such a way that our desired product will be the major product of the ligation reaction. I hope you are able to follow. Here the point I am trying to highlight is that when you allow the ligation reaction to occur in the presence of DNA ligase, not just our product of interest, in addition there will also be formation of unwanted products. Like the way I mentioned, there could be just the religation or recircularization of the vector without the incorporation of the target DNA, one possible side reaction, or two target molecules can be ligated with each other. That is also another possible side reaction. But the product of our interest is the circular vector in which the target DNA is incorporated. That will be our product of interest. the formation of our product of interest can be increased by appropriately maintaining the relative concentrations of the fragments of the reaction and also by controlling the reaction conditions. Continuing, as I mentioned, the products of interest will be the circular molecules with the target fragment inserted at the eco-R1 site of vector molecule. It could be in either orientation. In the next slide, I'll show you the diagram. What do I mean by either orientation of incorporation to form a recombinant molecule? But the reaction of the original vector plasmid, the recreation of the original vector plasmid by circularization of the linear vector is competing side reaction. That's what I was mentioning in the previous slide. There is always possibility that there could be recreation of the original vector by circularization of the linear vector molecule. That could be a competing side reaction. This formation of the original vector without the incorporation of the target DNA is the main side reaction that makes the identification of recombinant products problematic. This is what I was mentioning in the first class of this recombinant DNA technology. Because the selection markers are present on the vector molecule, though the target DNA is not incorporated in the vector molecule, if it is taken up by the cell during the process of transformation, they will be selected as the transformed cells. They are definitely transformed cells, but they do not have the recombinant DNA molecule which we are interested in. That's what. If there is recreation of the original vector without incorporation of the target fragment A, that is one reaction makes the identification of recombinant proteins problematic. There are certain solutions or approaches that can be applied in order to avoid the formation of this recreation of the original vector plasmid. One solution is to prepare both the target and vector using a pair of distinct restriction enzymes. As per the demand, instead of using the same enzyme for preparing the vector and target DNA, if you use pair of restriction enzymes to prepare both, your target and also vector, that could be one solution to avoid the formation of this original vector without the incorporation of the target DNA. What will happen? Thereby, we will have the non-compatible cohesive ends at the either end. If there are non-compatible ends, the religation of the linear vector will not take place. That's how the ligation will take place only when there is incorporation of the target DNA. The likelihood of ligating the vector into circle is then much reduced if you use a pair of distinct restriction enzymes. But sometimes what happens, using two different restriction enzymes will become cumbersome procedure. So another solution they have come up, they have come up with to solve this problem is using an enzyme called alkaline phosphatase. I will discuss that in the next slide. Before going to the usage of alkaline phosphatase, in this slide, I want to discuss by showing diagrammatically how different products are formed during the ligation. This is the vector molecule. Here in this example, plasmid vector is taken. If you look at the plasmid vector, obviously it should have its origin of replication by which it is capable of replicating autonomously. And there are two restriction sites present on this vector molecule. E indicates eco-R1, H indicates Hind3 or Hind1 or whatever. But this is the unique eco-R1 site which will be utilized in this process, and it should also have a selectable marker as I mentioned earlier, and you are all aware of it. So the selectable marker here in this particular example is antibiotic resistance marker. So these are all the different features of the plasmid vector. So this is linearized by treating with the restriction enzyme eco-R1. So when there is a cut here, it is linearized. Of course, the other sequences are present as it is. And the target DNA is also treated with the same restriction enzyme. So you have the compatible ends here on the target. Excuse me. There is interruption. Please mute all of you. You have to make sure that you mute yourself when the class is going on. All right. So you also have to treat your target DNA with the same enzyme so that there will be compatible ends at the ends. So when you allow the ligation reaction to take place by providing T4 DNA ligase, obviously you all know T4 DNA ligase requires the adenylating agent ATP. The wanted product what you require is the incorporation of this target DNA into the linearized vector and the ligation. So you will have the recombinant molecule. In the previous slide I mentioned that in either orientation, so this molecule if it is incorporated in this orientation, this is recombinant A, but definitely this is recombinant A, it is our desired product. If it is incorporated in the opposite orientation, that is recombinant B, but that is also the recombinant molecule, of course in different orientation, right? And sometimes the ligation can take place, this gets recircularized without the incorporation of the target fragment. This is the main competent site reaction because of which we will be able to find it difficult to identify the recombinant DNA molecule, because the cells containing this religated vector also will be selected on the antibiotic plate. The cells containing this recombinant molecule also will be selected, because here also antibiotic marker, here also antibiotic marker. That is why we need to go for another step of selection by some other means that we will discuss in the later classes, which will selectively identify the cells containing the recombinant DNA. I hope this is clear for you how the site reaction takes place. The site reaction is without the incorporation of the target DNA, just this one gets circularized, because of which there is a formation of religated vector, which is the unwanted product formed during the ligation reaction. So to avoid the formation of this religated vector without the incorporation of the target DNA, we have the another way. One way what I suggested in the previous slide is using the distinct pair of restriction enzymes, so that the ends will be non-compatible to be ligated. But I also mentioned that many times using two different enzymes will be a cumbersome process. As an alternative, we can use the enzyme alkaline phosphatase. This alkaline phosphatase is the enzyme which removes the phosphate groups from the 5' end of the linearized molecule.